You must have heard many stories about children getting lost at fairs, but just imagine if a child were to disappear on a flying plane. This is exactly the kind of story told in the 2005 film Flight Plan. Tonight was going to be very difficult for Kyle. Kyle is an American aircraft engineer whose husband recently died in Berlin. She has to take her husband's body to America on a flight. Her 4-year-old daughter Julia is with her. To help her manage her stress and anxiety during this difficult time, the doctor has given her some medication. They were all set to go to the airport in a taxi. At the airport, Julia gets lost. Not finding her daughter there, Kyle became extremely worried. She looked around where there were thousands of strangers, but her daughter was nowhere to be seen. After searching for a bit, she found Julia standing near a small shop. Kyle scolds her daughter, telling her that she is not to go anywhere without her permission. The two of them board a plane. It is revealed that Kyle herself designed it. They were the first to reach the cabin. Julia looked out the window and drew a small heart on the glass with her finger. While sitting there, Kyle dozed off. When she woke up, she saw that Julia was missing from her seat. Kyle asked the other passengers about her daughter, but no one had seen her. A flight attendant suggested that maybe Julia was playing with other children her age. Kyle started searching further inside the plane, but there was still no sign of Julia. She continues searching for her daughter, but with every step, her worry keeps increasing. She checked her seat again. Under the blanket, she found a one-armed teddy bear, but Julia was not there. This was very strange because Julia never goes anywhere without her teddy bear. She spoke to a flight attendant named Stephanie, asking her to help find Julia. Stephanie agreed and announced over the plane's intercom that a little girl was missing. A little while later, Stephanie told Kyle that there was no record of Julia boarding the plane. Kyle was confused. She was absolutely certain that her daughter was with her. So, to prove all this, she thought of showing Julia's boarding pass. But Kyle couldn't find Julia's boarding pass anywhere, and even her daughter's bag was missing from there. This made her completely sure that Julia hadn't left on her own, because such a small child couldn't have gotten up there by herself. We see that a sky marshal named Gene Carson, whom we can also call the plane's policeman, starts keeping an eye on Kyle. Kyle demanded to meet the plane's captain, Marcus, so that she could involve him in the search for Julia as well. When the captain heard that there was no evidence of Julia even boarding the plane, he asked if Kyle was taking any kind of medication. Kyle explains that after her husband's death, she has been struggling with anxiety and takes sleeping pills to suppress it. She told them that her husband died 6 days ago after falling from the roof. She says that she still doesn't believe her husband committed suicide. The ship's captain and the rest of the staff think that perhaps Kyle is not completely mentally stable because of her husband's death, and that bringing her daughter along is just her imagination. But Kyle was ready to search every inch of the ship to find Julia. Captain Marcus, though unwilling, agrees and sends all the members to start the search. All the cabin lights were turned on. Stephanie went to check in the aviation department, but there was no trace of a 4-year-old girl there either. While searching for Julia, Kyle noticed an Egyptian man. She started questioning him because Kyle felt that man looked familiar. She tries to remember where she had seen that man before, but it's no use. Kyle asked Captain Marcus to search for Julia in the cargo hold. Captain Marcus did not allow it and angrily said to Kyle, "There are many other passengers traveling on this plane, but the entire staff, instead of thinking about them, is busy searching for your daughter. But we don't even know if she actually boarded the plane or not." Kyle didn't like what the captain said. She ran to that Egyptian man and accused him of kidnapping her daughter because she remembered that the previous night, this same man was peeking into her daughter's bedroom. The man got very annoyed at this accusation. To prove his innocence, he showed the receipt from the hotel where he was staying. That hotel was very far from Kyle's house. Despite all this, Kyle kept pressuring the man to confess to the crime, which led to a physical altercation between them. Carson too was now fed up with Kyle's behavior. He said that now he could better understand the death of Kyle's husband. After spending just a few hours with her, he himself feels like jumping out of this plane, so her poor husband could certainly jump off the roof. On the other hand, Captain Marcus received a message from a hospital in Berlin, stating that Julia was with her father when he fell from the roof, and that she too had died 6 days earlier from internal injuries. Now the entire crew of the plane started to feel that Kyle was not mentally stable. She angrily denies this. She was absolutely certain that her daughter Julia was still alive and was on this very plane. Carson says that Kyle is making up stories. She is not mentally stable, which is why she could become a danger to others. So he handcuffed Kyle and made her sit in her seat. A therapist named Lisa comes over and tries to comfort her. After listening to her, Kyle started doubting her own judgment. Gradually, she began to accept her daughter's death. But then her attention went to the heart that Julia had drawn on the window with her finger. The presence of that heart on the window proved that Kyle wasn't making up stories. Kyle's confidence started to grow that something was definitely wrong there. She convinced the therapist and asked to go to the bathroom. Somehow she manages to reach the upper compartment of the plane from there. Once there, she tampered with the plane's electrical equipment, causing the oxygen mask to drop and all the lights to go out. All the passengers and the plane's staff began to panic anxiously. But Carson realized that Kyle was behind all of this. Taking advantage of the chaos, she went to the lower deck of the plane. There she found her husband's coffin. She unlocked the coffin, suspecting for some reason that Julia would be inside, but there was nothing there except her husband's dead body. After some time, Carson also arrived there. He found her, handcuffed her, and took her back. He announced that the flight would make an emergency landing at Goose Bay Airport, where Kyle would be taken into custody. Kyle made one last request to Carson, that he be allowed to search the entire plane once before it landed. Carson thought for a moment and then decided to talk to the captain. However, instead of speaking to the captain, he quietly slipped into the flight deck. There he took out 2 explosives and a remote from Kyle's husband's casket. From there, he went to the avionics department and planted the explosives. Meanwhile, Julia was sleeping on the platform. Here we find out that Carson is actually the mastermind behind all of this. Carson and Stephanie have planned to hijack the airplane, and in exchange they will demand a $50 million ransom. Since Kyle knows everything about the airplane, they will put all the blame on her. They made Julia disappear only so that Kyle would open her husband's coffin, where Carson had hidden the explosives. Carson told the captain that Kyle was threatening to blow up the airplane with a bomb. If the airline doesn't deposit $50 million into an account, Carson tells a panicked Stephanie that he has planned to blow up the entire airplane with a bomb. According to his plan, he'll get everyone else off the plane before the explosion, but Julia and Kyle will die in the blast right there. Kyle still couldn't believe what had happened. She anxiously started looking out the window. The other passengers couldn't understand anything because of the emergency landing. When the plane landed, all the passengers got off. When the captain was going down, Kyle started questioning him, to which the captain, irritated and angry, replied that the ransom had already been paid, so what more did she want? Kyle didn't understand anything at first, but soon she realized that all of this was Carson's doing. Carson takes advantage of the situation and twists the truth to make it look like Kyle is the terrorist. Kyle thinks that since she's already been labeled a terrorist, why not take advantage of it a little? She demands that everyone else get off the plane except for Carson. Carson hesitated, but he knew that if he refused, things would turn against him. As soon as the plane door closed, Kyle hit Carson on the head with a fire extinguisher cylinder, knocking him unconscious. She handcuffed him and took the remote from his pocket. Stephanie stepped out in front of him. After some time, Carson regained consciousness and immediately started looking for Kyle. As soon as he sees her, he shoots at her, but she locks herself inside the cockpit. She threw a box upwards through a small door to trick Carson into thinking she was going that way. Carson heard the sound coming from above and set out to catch her. When Kyle came out from there, she saw Stephanie standing in front of her. There were tears of embarrassment in her eyes, but Kyle landed a strong punch on her jaw. Stephanie, frightened, ran away from there. Kyle continues searching for her daughter in the avionics department, where she finds Julia unconscious. She immediately hugs her and picks her up. Carson, while searching for them, reveals that he was the one who killed Kyle's husband so he could hide explosives in his coffin. He knew that because of Kyle's position, her husband's coffin would not be inspected at the airport. Kyle quickly took Julia and hid in a part of the plane where they could be safe from the fire. She had the remote in her hand. Carson fired shots at her, but Kyle closed the door just in time. She detonated the bomb with the remote, causing a massive explosion in the airplane. Carson was killed in the explosion. All the passengers and crew members witnessed the explosion with their own eyes. A little while later, a shadow was seen moving toward them through the cloud of smoke. We see that Kyle came out safely with her daughter. Seeing her, everyone realizes that she had been telling the truth all along. The next morning, the captain of the airplane comes to Kyle and apologizes for his mistake. We see that Stephanie is taken away in handcuffs by the FBI. At that moment, an agent informs them that the head of the Berlin morgue has also been arrested. Kyle walks past the passengers with Julia, who now know the truth. Everyone was surprised and to some extent embarrassed because none of them had trusted her. When they were about to leave in a car, Julia woke up from her sleep and asked her mother if they had arrived. Her mother lovingly replied, "Yes." So, how did you like this unique story? Be sure to let us know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more such entertaining videos.